course, we are back on the couch with our fantastic medical experts that we chatted to today about two of the topics that we covered. One was ME/CFS, and the other was, of course, becoming a new parent and involving the father. So I think just in closing, before we wrap up the show, because ME is so, misdiagnosed, what advice or what do you want people to know and understand about the disease, and when should people and what should people be feeling when they should go and get diagnosed?
So I think the first thing is that when you see the severity of an illness like that, obviously get to a medical practitioner as soon as possible. And if you can't get to a medical practitioner, get to a hospital or a clinic in your area so that they can begin testing, so that we can exclude commonly caused illnesses that may cause severe fatigue. So at least that you've got your exclusions that you've done. So once you've got to that point, then the other thing is to start to look also and make sure that you've got a lot of support. And I think it's very important that you get psychological support, because if you speak to a lot of patients who have ME or CFS, their life changes. And it's not just psychological support to say, how do you cope with an illness? It's about how do you cope with a new you and having to deal with a new life. And I think the other thing that's very important that patients can or people can do is that they can go onto the website and they can look up Rita's Association, and they can become members. And all of a sudden, when you don't feel like you're the only person suffering so much, and you realize there is a support structure, those are the first steps that kind of make it a bit easier and able to deal with.
All of that information will also be on our website. And then what I wanted to ask you is, what advice do you give to the new moms and dads that come through to the Tula Centre?
Breastfeeding, which, that's one of the first things one does as a new mom. Breastfeeding should be comfortable, and a lot of moms think it's supposed to be sore and that it'll get better. So it's not meant to be sore. So get breastfeeding expert help early on. And the other important piece of advice is gather people around you who fill you with confidence and make you feel capable. Anybody, and you don't have to be too deep about it, but anyone who makes you feel anxious or less than needs to be out of your immediate world when you're a brand new mom in those first few weeks. So protect yourself. And I usually ask the dads to be the gatekeepers of that.
In fact, on social media, one of the comments of having which topic, of course, we've been asking you throughout the show, which topics we should add to our Mommy Monday segments. And one of the topics was breastfeeding. That came up quite a bit on social media. So a lot of mothers, new mothers are out there not knowing how to go about breastfeeding. I did not know. You just busted a myth, because I didn't know that it was meant to be sore.
Like, whip out the boob and
do it.
Is it not that?
Breastfeeding is a learned skill, so it's natural, but it's natural to talk and it's natural to walk, and those are learned skills. And unfortunately, we hide breastfeeding away.
So
and most of us start breastfeeding never having watched someone breastfeed before. So that's a tough. You're starting on your back foot.
There's no way of practicing it.
And I know a lot of mothers do feel like a bit of a disconnect when they do breastfeed and the baby doesn't. It's called latching.
Yes.
The baby doesn't latch on, and they feel that disconnect, and they feel less than. Is it my fault? Am I doing something wrong here? So I think it would be quite interesting to dive into that.
It's such an interesting conversation, because I assume that it's just like, when you take a puppy to the dog, it just like clicks and clicks. But apparently not. So I'm looking forward to that show. I'm going to be very educated. Thank you very much for being on the show today. It was really, really wonderful conversation. And so wonderful seeing you again in a brand new week. Join us again tomorrow on Afternoon Express as we chat to media personality Ayanda Tabete. One of my very, very favourites is going to be in the lot for our Kokolanga. I can't wait to see her. And we'll see you then too. Until then, good night and God bless.